So, what if there's a smarter way to build a business? A way to sidestep all the big pitfalls and just zero in on what really, truly matters. That's what we're going to dig into today. The core ideas behind lean mastery. It's this powerful way of thinking for building things that people actually want and will use.
Think about this for a second. Why do so many new ventures just fail? Well, a lot of the time, it's because they build something that nobody actually wants. The classic cautionary tale is WEBVAN, a real legend from the dot-com bust. They poured hundreds of millions of dollars into these amazing futuristic warehouses and a whole fleet of delivery vans. They perfectly solved the technical challenge of getting groceries to your door. The only problem? This was the early 2000s, and most people just weren't ready to buy their fruit online yet. They had this incredible solution for a problem their customers didn't really have.
So, how do you avoid falling into that same trap? The answer is this whole philosophy we call lean. At its heart, it's really just a systematic way to declare war on waste. And I mean waste of everything: time, money, effort. The whole goal is to focus only on the things that create real, tangible value for your customer. And let's be clear, this isn't about being cheap. It's about being incredibly smart and deliberate with the resources you have.
Okay, so here's where lean totally flips the script on how we usually do things. Before you even think about cool features, before you sketch a logo, before you write one single line of code, your first job is to get out of your office. You have to go talk to your potential customers. The only goal here is to find hard evidence that you're solving a problem they actually care about.
As creators and builders, we get so obsessed with what's called product risk. Can we actually build this thing? Is the tech even possible? But lean argues that's completely the wrong question to start with. The real killer, the thing that sinks most new ideas, is market risk. It's not can we build it, it's should we build it? Will anyone actually open their wallet and pay for this? Lean forces you to confront that terrifying but absolutely essential question from day one.
And how do you figure out that market risk? You use this simple but incredibly powerful little engine, the build, measure, learn loop. So first, you build a minimum viable product, or an MVP. This is just the most bare-bones version of your idea you can create to test your biggest assumption. Then, you measure how real customers actually use it. And finally, you learn from that data. Are you on the right path? If yeah, great, you persevere. If not, you pivot. And that means making a big strategic change based on what you just learned. It's basically the scientific method for business.
Okay, so you've used that feedback loop. You've confirmed your idea is a good one. Now you got to build it for real. But how do you manage that whole process without it descending into total chaos and creating a bunch of waste? Well, that brings us to our second big idea. You have to make the work visible.
And to do that, we're going to borrow a brilliant tool from Japanese manufacturing called Kanban. It literally just means billboard or signal. It was first used in Toyota factories to signal when they needed more parts. But for us, it's a super simple visual system that lets you see exactly where every piece of work is at any moment. The best part? It makes bottlenecks completely impossible to ignore.
So a simple board shows the journey of your work. It starts in a backlog of ideas, moves to in progress, then built, and finally, it's validated with real customer feedback. But here's the magic rule. You have to limit how much stuff is in the in progress column at one time. That simple little constraint keeps the team from getting swamped and instantly shows you where the whole process is getting jammed up. It's so powerful.
So you've got a validated idea in a nice visual workflow. You're done, right? Well, not so fast. Not even close. See, lean isn't just a box of tools you use. It's a culture. And that culture is totally built on the art of relentless improvement.
And in Japanese, there's a beautiful word for this philosophy: Kaizen. It's this simple but really profound idea that everything can and should be improved. And we're not talking about huge, earth-shattering breakthroughs here. We're talking about the incredible power of making tiny, consistent, incremental improvements day in and day out.
Now, one of the most hands-on ways to practice Kaizen is something called the 5S system. The easiest way to think about it is like organizing a super messy garage. First, you sort. You just get rid of all the junk you don't need. Then, you set in order. You find a logical place for everything that's left. Then, you shine. You clean the whole place up. Then, you standardize. You create rules, like always putting your tools back. And finally, you sustain the new habit so it doesn't just become a mess all over again. It's a method for creating a workspace where inefficiency just has nowhere to hide.
All right, so we're building the right thing, we're managing our workflow, we're always improving. But how do we know if any of it is actually working? How do we know if we're winning? That brings us to the final and maybe most critical piece of this lean puzzle:
measuring what actually matters. And right here is where we have to understand the huge difference between vanity metrics and actionable metrics. Vanity metrics, think total page views or likes on social media. They're the feel-good numbers. They look great in a presentation, but they don't actually help you make any decisions. Actionable metrics, on the other hand, things like your conversion rate or your churn rate, that's the rate at which customers leave. Those are the vital signs of your business. They tell you exactly what's working and what's broken, so you know what to do next.
Get this, studies show that on average, a staggering 65% of online shopping carts are just abandoned before the customer pays. Now, if you're only tracking a vanity metric like total visitors, you're completely blind to the fact that 2/3 of your most interested customers are walking away at the very last second. That's a massive, actionable problem you can solve, but you can only solve it if you're measuring the right thing.
So how can you tell if you're looking at a good metric? Well, here's a quick 4-part test. Is it comparable? Can you look at it week over week and see a real trend? Is it understandable? Does everyone on your team actually know what this number means? Is it a ratio? Ratios, like conversion rates, are almost always better than big, raw numbers. And finally, is it adaptable? Does it make you change your behavior when the number moves? If the answer is no, it's probably just a vanity metric.
So as we pull this all together, it's so important to realize that these aren't just separate tools in a toolbox. That build, measure, learn loop, the Kanban board, the whole Kaizen philosophy, and focusing on actionable metrics, they're all just different ways of expressing the very same core mindset. It's a mindset that is obsessed with learning, laser-focused on eliminating waste, and absolutely dedicated to continuous improvement.
Now, I gotta be honest, this is not a quick fix. You don't just go lean on Monday and see results on Tuesday. It takes a ton of patience and discipline from every single person on the team. It truly is a marathon, not a sprint. And in this kind of race, it's the slow, steady, consistent improvements that win in the long run.
So, I'll leave you with a little challenge. Just take a look at your work, your projects, maybe even just your daily routine. What's one small piece of waste? You know, a pointless meeting you could cancel, an inefficient process you could streamline, even just a cluttered desktop you can organize. What's one thing you could eliminate tomorrow? Because that one small act, that's your first step on the path to mastering this way of thinking.